Hey, so in this video I'm going to walk you all the way through Paperspace from account setup to using it to run a model. The first thing you have to do is you're going to have to set up an account. So I recommend that you use the promo code that's listed in the description of this video. That's going to get you, I think, like $10 in credits. It'll also give me some credits as a referral. So if you want to use Paperspace, please use it. I don't use it just for the referral code. I really actually think Paperspace is one of the best places to start doing machine learning. And I'll talk a little bit about why when we go through this. But if you use that promo code, you'll end up at a URL that looks like this. All you'll need to do is create an account. Now you need to check your email address and make sure that you got something. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll be back in a second. Okay, so I'm back. I clicked on that confirming my address in my email inbox. It loaded me up to a page that looks like this. This is your main Paperspace interface. There's a couple of things you want to know about in the side here. So on the side here, you've got gradient, which we won't be using in this class, but you should take a look at it. It's pretty interesting. Core is what we're going to do. That's how we can add machines. And then a couple other things over here. The first thing that you want to do if you're in my class is I want you to add a new team. So what you're going to do that is you're going to hover over this private workspace down here. You're going to click on Manage All Teams. And I want you to create a new team. Please put in a name that is your name, essentially, because that's going to help me manage your account. So I'm just going to put in my name here, hit Create a New Team. Now, the reason I want you to use Teams is because it helps you like set up new people and new people to work with. The way you're going to do that over here is by going here. You're going to click on the team and your user. It'll probably be your name. You're going to come over here. You're going to come to user, and you are going to invite a user. So in this case, you're going to invite me. If you're not in this class, don't do this step because I don't want access to your Paperspace account. It's bad for you and it's bad for me. So please skip this. You're going to want to put in that email address, and you're going to want to invite the user. And I won't put Leah's email address in here, but I'll tell you in class what address to add because I'd like you to add her too. Once that's in there and pending, you'll see that it's accepted once I've accepted it. The other thing I would like you to do is to add admin access in this. I'll show you how to do that in the class. But basically, you're going to want to give me admin access. That way I can log in if there's an issue with your machines or something else going on with your Paperspace account and you don't know what's going on. You can talk to me or Leah on Slack, and we can jump in and take a look at it. So at this point, your team is pretty much set up. You'll have to like change some admin stuff once everything's approved by me and Leah, but you're pretty much ready to go within your team. The next thing we want to do is we want to set up a machine. So what you're going to do that is you're going to come over here, you're going to hover over core, and then under compute, and then under machines, you're going to click on that. The next thing you need to do is click on new machine. So we're now going to make a machine, and this is basically we're going to create a server in our Paperspace account. For everyone that's watching this video, your steps will be slightly different just based on this first step. So the first thing you want to do is you want to create a machine in basically the location closest to you. So if you're in New York, I definitely recommend you pick East Coast. If you are in California or Washington, you're going to want to pick the West Coast. And if you're in Europe, I definitely recommend picking Europe as well. If you're overseas in a different location, Paperspace might not actually be the best for you, but if you do want to use Paperspace, I recommend just picking the server setup closest to you. So for me personally, since I'm in New York, I'm going to pick East Coast. Then I'm going to scroll down here. The first thing that I want to do is I want to click on public templates. So the reason that Paperspace is great is because they have this thing called ML in a box. It basically comes pre-installed with a bunch of stuff that we don't have to worry about, which is awesome. It's much helpful, like really, really helpful for people who are not used to setting up servers to just do one-click install with this. So you go ahead and click on Ubuntu 18.04 ML in a box. You're now going to pick a machine, and I just realized this is going to be locked for me. But essentially, you're going to want the P5000. Oh, actually, you know what? It did let me in. Okay, let's see how this goes. Basically, there's different server users or different types of servers here. In most of the things that I teach, I recommend the P5000. It's about the right amount of price as well as the right CPU as well as GPU. It's basically like just right. It works for everything I want to teach. If you want to be cheap and you know you're not going to do, I guess, StyleGAN or a couple other things, you might want to try the P4000. It's a little slower, it's a little smaller, but it's cheaper. It's sort of up to you, but for my class, I generally recommend the P5000. You're going to want to go down here. I would recommend changing your storage. I find that for most of the stuff I'm doing, either 100 gigabytes or 250 is best. If you know you want to do next frame prediction, I highly recommend you switch to 250. Next frame prediction produces really big models, and it can fill up your hard drive pretty quickly. And if you're not watching it every day while it's training, you might forget it, and it might overload your server space. So maybe you want to go 250. For me, this is a demo. I'm just going to choose the 100. I recommend giving your machine a name. You just click in here and you just start typing. Just kind of helps. It's nice. The network is default. That's fine. I definitely recommend turning on auto shutdown. We'll talk a little bit more about auto shutdown in class, but I definitely recommend turning it on. This allows basically because your machine is going to run every couple minutes, or it's going to charge you per hour, you want to make sure you're not being charged too much. So basically, if you forget to turn it off and you let it run, it's going to keep racking up fees, and that'll suck. What I recommend you do is start with setting it at 1 day. That'll be great for something like, probably maybe not Munit, but it'll be good for style transfers, it'll be good for SynGAN. It's generally the safest option. I'll show you where you can change this at a later date, but either 1 day or 1 week is probably good. It's all just up to you, I guess I would say. Auto snapshot, I personally turn this off. It's just not something that I need to do very often. And the thing that's really, really important is that you do turn on public IP. They used to charge for this, now they don't. It's awesome. You'll need public IP in order to access your server from an SSH, which we'll show in a minute, or just to access it via FTP and other things. So it's really important that you do this. The next thing you'll need to do down here is you will need to probably add a card. I believe I think all Paperspace accounts require some sort of credit card here. Even if I have a promo code, so for people in my class, you have $100 credits for your Paperspace account. Leah's going to send you that passcode, so you'll get that. You'll put that in here. I recommend make sure you have your passcode before you do this, because if you add a card and you don't put in your promo code, it's going to charge $7 to your account immediately. Whereas you've got $100 in promo space, so just use it. So you can go ahead and put in your promo code there and hit apply. For me, I'm going to add a card. Once you've put in a promo code and added a card, this create your Paperspace thing is going to light up. I'm going to skip that step because I'm going to add in my own credit card here. But when I come back, I'll have create a Paperspace and we can talk through what it's doing. So I am back. I went ahead and hit that create your Paperspace button, and now I see that I have my machine here. So what you'll see here, first of all, is that it's got this sort of salmon color. It says provisioning. That basically means that Paperspace is setting up your server. It has to install a bunch of code on it, provision it, and then it's almost ready to go. So what you're going to want to do from here is, as soon as it turns on, it'll start charging you money. And I'll show you where all that's set up in a minute. But essentially, as soon as you start up your Paperspace, just know that it's basically starting to charge your account. Most people will probably just generally click on this thing that says launch right here. What I want to show you is what's inside of this the settings icon. So let's click that now. Great. So in here, you will see that there is a bunch of options around your machine. So first thing that you need to know is you've got your machine's name here. You'll see it's provisioning. The next thing you want to make note of is that down here is your public IP address. We're going to be using this a lot, so I recommend that you just know how you can always find this. This is your public IP address. We don't have any snapshots going, so we're good there. Here is where your auto shutdown is. So if you set this to off, or you set it to 1 day or 1 week, basically you can only change this when the server is off. So I'm going to show you where it's off in a minute. And then when we turn it back on, which you see it's on right now, you can change this. So basically, because my server was already provisioning, if I want to change this, I need to shut it down. So next thing to notice is now that we've finished provisioning our server here, you'll see that it says it's on and ready. That literally means that the server is running and you are being charged credits for it. So make sure you keep an eye on that. There's two buttons over here that are really important. The first is restart. I don't use restart that, or actually the second is restart. I don't use restart that often. If I think something's buggy on the machine, I might restart it, but in general, I generally don't find that happens. The next is shutdown. Shutdown is really important. Basically, this is the button you want to click when you want to turn off your machine. So right now I'm being charged credits on my account. Let's say I want to hit shutdown. It's going to start to shut down the machine. Two things that are really important to remember about Paperspace is when it's shut down, you're not being charged your hourly rate, but you are being charged a storage fee per month. So I believe depending on what size you use, it can either be $5, $7, $10. That's being charged on a per monthly basis. So basically, as soon as you start, it's like a 30-day rolling period, I assume. If you leave your Paperspace, like let's say you finish this class and you leave your Paperspace running, or you leave it off, you'll keep being charged $7 every month, or $10 or whatever it is for your space. So just be aware of that being an issue. I had someone in my first class ever that maybe 3 or 4 months after the class was over was like, "Hey, I'm still being charged Paperspace. What's going on?" It just turned out they still had a machine provisioned, but they weren't running it, so they were getting charged for that storage space. So right now this machine is shutting down. It's now shut down and off. That means I'm no longer being charged. When you are ready to destroy this server completely and you don't want to be charged at all, even the storage fees, you can hit this button called deactivate. That's really going to destroy the machine. Anything saved on that server is going to be destroyed. Whereas when you start or just shut down your machine, all the files are still saved on there. So let's say you run a couple style transfers and you turn the machine off. When you turn it back on, those finalized outputs will still be on your server. Whereas deactivate destroys everything and it's all gone. So just be aware that like if you turn off deactivate, you will lose everything that's on your server. Really important. Okay, let's start this guy up again. And the next step, now that we have a server set up, is that we want to access it. So this, basically, I know that when it says on and ready, it really needs another like 15 to 20 seconds to really be ready. So I'm kind of just vamping here while I'm getting this set up. Okay, so there are two options to accessing your server. The first is using what they call their desktop beta, and I'll show you what that is, and we can look at it. The next is to use Terminal, which is an app on your Mac, or another command line interface if you're using Windows. There's a couple of them. I don't know what their names are off the top of my head. But there's basically two different ways to access it. Let's look at desktop first. So in Paperspace, you're going to go over here and you're going to click Open Desktop. And this is going to load. So just remember that a server is just a computer in the cloud, right? Or a computer at a server warehouse. So this is just your desktop view of that computer. This uses Linux instead of, or uses Ubuntu instead of Mac OS or Windows or whatever it is. So you're basically in this machine right now. So there's a couple reasons why you might want to use this. One is it's just a simpler interface. If the terminal or command line kind of scares you, this might be a little bit easier for you. But you're still generally going to have to use the terminal no matter what for the class that I teach. So it might just be a good way to start getting used to that. The next reason why you might want to use this interface is one thing that's like really important to remember is that like this machine is hooked up to like the fastest internet on Earth. So if you want to pull down files, I generally would not recommend pulling them down from the internet onto your local computer and then uploading them via FTP. That's just a slow process. Your best bet is to actually use this server. So let's say you have some files in Dropbox that you want to bring onto your server, or you have some files in Drive that you want to bring onto your server. I would recommend just clicking on Firefox and going to Dropbox and just logging in. Obviously, once you log in with your account, like you can download files. When you download files here, you're basically downloading it to your desktop on your server, and then we can look at like how to actually access them that way. So this is like the main reason why I think you would want to use this desktop interface over, say, the command line. So the other thing that's important to remember is that there is a command line interface directly in your server. So if you want to do everything in your desktop in here in this place, you can. There's one caveat, which I will show you right now, which is a little annoying. So to access the terminal from here, you click on this grid of icons, and you click on this guy, which is the terminal. So when you open it, like this is literally your terminal interface. I'll do a little bit more of a demo with this in just a minute, but this is everything that's on your desktop. So if you type ls, which just lists everything in this location, you'll see here's desktop, here's documents, here's downloads, here's music. This happens to be basically the same as your files. You'll see that these match 1-to-1. So that seems great. You could do all of your git commands from here, right? The problem with this is that because you're in a virtual environment, things like cut and paste don't work the way you expect them to. So if I were to go over here, and this is the script I know I want to grab, and I were to just like select some text and hit copy, hit Command C on my machine, then come over here and come into the virtual, and I try to do Command V, look what it just did. That doesn't even make any sense. So cut and paste won't work from here, which is going to be tough for this class because I have a lot of instructions that you're just going to want to copy and paste. So not ideal. You could type out all the commands by hand, but that's going to suck. You could try to access them by jumping into Firefox and then finding the slides I have would also work. It's doable. There's ways around it, but it's going to be a little annoying. So I don't necessarily recommend this to do everything in. But for stuff like file downloads, pretty great, very fast, much faster than anything you could do on your machine. Cool. So let's jump in and take a look at terminal. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about terminal. Terminal is an app on your Mac computer. I assume most people in this class probably have Macs. The way it works is it allows you to access other machines using a thing called SSH. It allows you to write commands that do things with your machine. So if you ever used the command line before, it's basically a text way of doing GUI commands. And a GUI is essentially what you see here. So like if I click between documents and desktop, that jumps me in between two folders, right? You can do the same thing in terminal. So for example, right now, the folder that this always starts in is this folder. This is your home folder. It also happens to be the tilde folder. So if you type cd tilde, cd stands for change directory. That means basically move to this folder. So if I do cd tilde, that's going to put me where I already am. So I could do cd desktop. That moves me to my desktop. I could do cd, actually we need to do // So // means go back a folder. So if I go back a folder from desktop, I'm going into the tilde, which is the home, and I would say downloads, and now I'm inside downloads, right? So let's go back to my desktop. And I'm back to my desktop. The next command that's probably easiest that most people know is ls. What ls does, it spits out everything that's inside that folder, which you will see is my insanely messy desktop. So let's go ahead and do it. Now you see every single file that is on my desktop. I'm sorry, but there it is. I know that I'm still in my desktop because it says so here. So the way to log into your Paperspace machine using terminal is you want to come to this page. This is your console page. So again, log into your Paperspace account, go undo core, and then machines. Make sure you're in the machines section. You'll see here that I already have this machine running. So if I click here on the settings icon, I come to this page. Now it's really important. There's two things here you need to do. The first is that you want to grab your public IP address. So when you hover over public IP, you'll see a little clipboard icon shows up here. If you click, you'll see it says copied. So what are we going to do now? Now we're going to go back to our terminal account. And the important thing to type in here is SSH Paperspace @ and then paste in your IP address. So what is this doing? So this is saying SSH, which is a command that says, hey, I would like to access the server. I'd like to log into it. What is Paperspace? Paperspace is your username. So every time you set up a new Paperspace server, it creates an IP address, and then it also creates a username and a password. Now your username is always going to be Paperspace. I don't think it will ever change. It will pretty much always be Paperspace. So you will always be typing SSH Paperspace @ and then whatever your public IP address is. So this is mine. It'll be different for you, whatever. When you're done, you want to hit enter, and it's going to say, are you sure you want to connect? This is basically your machine has some security settings in it. Say, are you sure you want to connect to a server? Because if you connect to a random server, you don't know what's going to go on. Paperspace is secure, so you can say yes. So type in yes, then hit enter. And now it's asking for your password. So where's your password? So your password was emailed to you. When you created an account, you got 2 emails from Paperspace. One said that your Paperspace server is being created, and another said that it's created and here's your password. So I'm going to stop this video for a second. I'm going to go in and I'm going to grab my password and I'm going to come back. Hey, I'm back. I've copied my password from my email, and I'm going to hit, I've now copied it. I'm going to hit Command V to paste it in. Now, another thing that will trip up people a lot of times is they're going to say, I hit Command V and I didn't see anything change. That is a security feature of Terminal. When you put in a password, you will not see anything display on the screen. You're going to hit Return. And as long as you like entered in the password correctly, it's just going to show some welcome to Ubuntu stuff, and this is going to be, you're going to be in. You'll see here that I'll say Paperspace at and then something. That means you're logged in. If you get an error message, it's likely that you probably like copy or pasted twice. Like you just hit V twice because you were like, oh, I didn't see anything change, so I'm going to do it again. Just re-enter your password by copying and pasting it once, and you'll probably be fine. Okay, so now we're inside of the server. What's funny is if you remember what we did with the desktop view where you could see certain things, if we type ls here, you're going to see the exact same folders here, right? So this just means that you are inside that server and you are sitting at the root level of your account. You'll see here there's a tilde. That means you're at your root again. So again, I could go cd desktop, and I'm in my desktop. I go cd .. means go backwards. So go back to my root account, and I'm there. You will pretty much never use the desktop or documents or downloads or anything inside of your Paperspace server, but it exists if you need it. I don't know. You could use it as a very, very expensive computer if you wanted to. So what we're going to do next is we're going to install some things. And what that means is we're going to need to go to a GitHub page to download stuff. Okay, let's install the software for this class. If you've never used GitHub before, don't worry about it. You're not really going to use it that much besides what I tell you to type in. But you are going to want to go to this page. So go to github.com/dvschultz/AI. You're going to want to copy this URL. That's all you need to do for now. You're going to come back to terminal, and you're going to type in git clone, C-L-O-N-E, space, and then you're going to paste in that address. So remember, it's git, G-I-T, clone, C-L-O-N-E, space, and then that URL, and you're going to hit enter. We've now installed some software in here. So if I want to look at all the file I just added, I do ls and then hit enter. And you'll see now there's a new folder in here called AI. Now the next step is what you want to do to install the software. So if you are on this page and you come down here to this section, you'll see that what we just did is we just did this guy, although that URL has changed a little bit, and you update that. The next step you want to run is this, so just hit Command C, bash.space AI/rc2.1.sh. So if I were to go into AI, which I'm not going to do for this script, but let me show you what's in here. So see there's a bunch of files inside of here. This is what we just downloaded. For this, I need to run it from a different directory. So I'm going to go back to my root directory, make sure I'm in the right place. Yep, still there. So I've now copied this command, and I'm coming back here, and I'm hitting paste. And I'm going to hit return, and we're going to start to install a bunch of stuff. If at any point it asks you, like, are you sure, and asks for a Y or an N, just hit Command Y, and then, or sorry, Shift Y, and then hit return. That just says yes. It means you know what you're installing. I'm not installing any hackware on your machine, I promise. But you are basically installing a ton of stuff right now. So we're going to let this run for a little bit. Okay, so this is all installed. I got a couple errors. Don't worry, I'm going to fix these errors before you do it, so your errors shouldn't happen. But if we look again, we hit ls, we're going to see now we have a whole bunch of new folders here. So in addition to AI, we now have a thing called dataset tools. We now have a thing called Pickle Networks, which is wrong. You won't see those. We have a thing called PyTorch. We have a thing called StyleGAN2. We have a thing called Pix2Pix HD, Neural Style TF, and datasets, which is also wrong. So I'll probably redo this video later this week with all the updates. But for now, this is basically a bunch of the software you installed, right? So we already talked about Munit. We talked about Pix2Pix. This is actually for next stream prediction. We talked about StyleGAN, and then here is CycleGAN in case you need it. Neural Style TF, this is a style transfer library. So we have everything here we need. So we're actually now all set up. And you're going to be able to use this in class all you want. The steps to remember are that you're going to want to install things. The steps you're going to want to remember are that you want to shut off your machine now, right? We're not using it. Make sure you shut it off. You're going to come back here. You're going to come to Paperspace. If you are in your desktop view, just hit backwards. So, right, so we want to do shutdown, right? Make sure you hit shutdown and make sure it spins and make sure it goes gray before you leave this page, because there could be something happening where you think it's shutting down and it's not yet. And if you close out the page, maybe it stays open. You don't want to get charged for that time, right? So now it's gray, now it says off.